Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Paranormal Lens, a team from JOTT-Nyx Paranormal who's here to talk to you about different paranormal things. My name is Chad Thomas. I'm the subject matter expert for tonight, along with Jamie Widener and David Deromedi. Did I get your name right, David? I'm always bad with that.
You're not the only one. It's a unique last name.
So, all right. So, anything interesting going on, guys, right now? Are you ready to hear about the Clifton?
Let's dig into it.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about the Clifton.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Okay. We're going to talk about the Clifton Theater because JOTT-Nyx Paranormal is going to head there in a couple weeks. We're going to visit there on April 15th. The Clifton Theater is in Huntingdon, Pennsylvania. That's about 32 miles east of Altoona and 92 miles west of Harrisburg. The theater itself is located at 717 Washington Street, and that's been the site for 4 different theaters during Huntington's history. The Huntingdon Opera House opened in the mid-1800s. I found several dates, but March 18th, 1884 seems to be the most well-documented. The theater was built when Muddy Run was buried in a tunnel, and the 700 block of Washington Street was raised about 4 feet. Now, you guys know what water and paranormal, what happens when you put those two things together. Sometimes you get heightened activity, so that could be a cause for some of this stuff that's happening. The theater was constructed on the north side of the street and spanned most of the block. It cost about $46,000 in 1884. So in today's market, that would be about $1.4 million. So it wasn't a small venture at the time. The theater seated about 1,500 people. The first floor was retail space, and the auditorium was on the second floor. Now, something that I found interesting is there's no evidence that operas were ever performed at the Opera House. Music and melodramas seem to be the most popular shows at the time. The original theater burned down in a large fire in December 19th in 1901. The fire destroyed the entire block. That includes the first floor drugstore and the auditorium. And it's reported that this may have been the largest fire in Huntington's history. In 1914, the new Huntingdon Opera House was built on the foundation of the original theater. This theater was also designed for live performances. The theater remained a space for live theater until it was purchased by Andy and Robert Gamble in 1921. It was renamed the Gamble Theater and began showing silent films and talkies. Ticket prices were 5 cents per admission. Now, the Gambles only owned the theater for about a year. They left the entertainment business for auto sales. So they went from one lucrative thing to another lucrative thing. Let's see. In 1923, the theater underwent a renovation overseen by J. Lynn Blackford. Now, there were some things that pointed to there had been another fire that caused this renovation to happen. Other things pointed to the fact that he just wanted to take it from a converted live theater to movie space and make it an actual movie space. So at this point, they upgraded the projectors and installed a pipe organ. Blackford renamed the theater the Clifton after his son. One of the local newspapers pointed out that there was sorry, looking at my notes here. There was a typhoon ventilating system, and this system could exchange the air in the auditorium every 2 minutes. Now, during those days, air conditioning like that would have been pretty impressive. Most things weren't cooled at that point, so that would have been a pretty impressive system to have. Let's see. Blackford actually owned 2 theaters in Huntingdon. The first one was the Grand, and the second one was the Clifton. And in 1930, both theaters happened to have fires in them. The first one was the Grand on April 26th, and that partially destroyed the theater. And the Clifton was completely destroyed on November 30th. So something seems a little fishy there, but I'm not sure if there's any anything pointing to arson or anything like that. Nobody seems to know what caused those fires. The Clifton was rebuilt and opened in 1931 with 1,000 seats. By the early 1940s, it became part of the Harris amusement chain. It sat in different ownerships for a while, but in the early 80s, David Peoples bought the theater, and it was reported that the first movie he had on the air was E.T. So I think the three of us can relate to that. That was like during my early childhood. So E.T. Phone Home. Peoples converted it to
I saw it in the theaters as a kid.
What's that, Dave?
I saw it in the theaters as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. Peoples converted it to a 5-screen multiplex in the mid-1990s. Now, Theater 2 still has the original proscenium arch, stage, opera boxes, things like that. As most of the theaters have been, Clifton has been converted to a digital projection system that comes at a high cost. And I'm guessing that that's probably what's leading to the fact that it's up for sale right now. A lot of the smaller theaters like the Clifton have gone out of business because of they're actually forced by the distribution arms of film to upgrade to digital. It makes it a lot easier for them, but it's expensive and hard to keep that going. So right now, the Clifton is currently listed for sale. You can find it listed by Star and Associates Realty, and it's just under $300,000. So I don't know, David, there may be a business opportunity for you if you want to go with that. The current owner is hoping to keep movies playing in the theater as long as possible, because right now it's Huntingdon County's last movie theater. So it's that's that area out in the mountain.
Really?
Yeah. So they're hoping to keep it going, so there's something to do out there. Now, the Clifton Theater is also home to the Clifton Paranormal. Colin and Ariel run the group. I know, David, you've been in touch with them and talked to them a little bit. We're going to meet with them on April 15th when we go out to the Clifton. I don't want to dig too much into the paranormal side right now, because we, as a group, we sort of like to go in knowing the basics, but not all the details. That way we can see what we can find out. Some things that I've read is there's possibly a child spirit that plays in the lobby. Ariel has seen a woman who, in an area that used to be the dressing rooms, and other people have seen a woman in the lobby walking down the steps in red. Now, Jamie, keep this in mind. In Theater 2, where the stage is, one way to invoke the spirits is to get up on stage and act. So you may need to take care of that for us. I'm
going to act like I know how to act. Sure.
Let's see. In Theater 1, there may be a spirit that grabs and pulls the hair of female patrons. Let's see. And on the 15th, after we do our investigation, we'll put some stuff together. Then we're going to have Colin and Ariel do our reveal episode. And so they can tell us what they know, and then we can dig into some of our stories and see what we have found out. So I just want to step through some of the pictures that I found. This is the facade of the Clifton. You can see that it's got that Art Deco period of the 1930s brickwork with the recessed mortar, a lot of relief sculptures and windowsills and things like that. So it was definitely a hoity-toity theater at the time. This is the lobby. It's still got the original ticket center from the last renovation. Snack bar. This is a view of the number 2 theater with the proscenium arch that's still intact. It's got the railing in the front where the orchestra pit is, boxes, and then there is, you can still access the stage. This is one of the other theaters. Let's see.
Now, it blows my mind when I was talking with Colin and Ariel that it blows my mind that it is a functioning theater. and they do matinees. I believe on a Wednesday and a Saturday, and the folks that run the Clifton Paranormal are the ones that actually run the theater as well.
Okay.
Wow.
So it is. They do have it's still first run movies, which is a cool thing that they have both in the same space. It is a paranormal space. I'm sort of drawn to it because I did a lot of work in theaters with my profession, so I'm really looking forward to exploring some of the live theater space in theater too. If we can get up in the catwalks in the attic space, Dave, that you were telling us about off air, I think that'd be really cool to see some of that.
Yeah.
When I spoke with Colin and Ariel, they specifically mentioned the attic and the fact they've caught a number of class. I'm going to get this wrong because I'm not that educated on EVPs, but they've caught a number of very clear EVPs out of the attic, and they actually, if we wanted to do a live from there, they recommended using the attic. So maybe if we can get them to get on with us on our reveal and our evidence overlook, maybe we can get them to come on from the attic.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Class A EVP is the ones that are clear. And
yep. It's ABC. Yep.
Cool.
A is best, B is good, and C is it's there, but not really sure what it is. But there's something. So it's these kind of this is okay. I'm so excited about this place. I can't even talk. One of the things about theaters, especially theaters that were live, with stage production, is there's so much energy in the place during the production of a show, and the passion of the actors and the cast and the crew. There has to be residual energy there. Like I'm putting something forward. I know that, like an expectation, but we see this in all these older theaters. The conversion of the theaters, the side theaters, or the rest of the building into, 4 other visible studios, it is a necessity because they have to keep the place open.
Right.
But, that home stage 2 or room 2, whatever it's called there is really what strikes my interest the most, because that's where the magic would have happened to put a production on,
Mm-hmm.
And whether it be a theater production or whether it be a show, something in the spirit, even if it's a musical production, musical being just the artist playing music,
right.
There's still a lot of energy in that space. And it would have been a highly trafficked area for guests as well.
Mm-hmm.
People who love the arts would have spent time there. So I think these places are so cool because of that and the extended history of this place, going way back into the early 1800s. That's just a ton of time to figure what's going on.
And I find it interesting that this theater, and sort of like the Fulton Opera House that's near us, was used for so many things. It's the Fulton was a hall that had a performance area or meeting hall or whatever you want to call it on the first floor, but above that was a shooting gallery, and at one point it was a prison. Like these spaces have been used for so many things, and this one it's had 4 different theaters on the foundation, and I think that's so cool. And I do think you get a lot of that residual energy. I think it's the playing it over and over a lot of times in theater. It's the same. It's not always intelligent hauntings. It's that repeating loop that you get in a lot of theaters, but sometimes you do get intelligent hauntings. So I'm looking forward to see what we can find.
Absolutely. We're going to hit it with everything.
Well, that was going to be my question, whether or not they.
Go ahead.
That was going to be my question, whether or not they experienced residual or intelligent hauntings, and if anything was stirred up even more so by the renovations and such that they've made.
From what I gather, they have both. You have the residual haunting of the woman coming down the stairs, the woman in red coming down the stairs. The thing that I read that Ariel noticed was she dropped her cell phone, and when she went to pick it up, it's like she saw a woman moving from one area to another, like she was changing and getting ready to go on stage. She was in an area that was the dressing rooms at one point. So I think those are your residuals. But then if they're getting EVPs, there are a couple clips out there of people who, like on YouTube, of people who have done recordings there. And as they're talking and introducing stuff, there's things going on in like voices in the background. So I find that's pretty interesting. The one theater, I believe it's Theater 1, they experience spirit, or they think of a man possibly, they're not sure, grabbing women's hair or touching women. Again, it's mostly they're going after females, pulling their hair, tugging on them, stuff like that. So we'll have to keep that in mind and make sure that we put, Courtney and Melissa in there and see if they get any reactions. So it'll be interesting to see what we find.
Yeah, Dave, it's too bad you're not going to be there. I'd like to see them try to pull your hair.
Well,
we probably have at this point of our team's existence, we probably have the most amount of technology and equipment that we've ever had. And that's also what excites me, is that we get to get there with all the cool toys that we got. There's some new things in the arsenal that we've been slowly rolling into our events at Boobies, but getting away from what we know, and we know the brewery pretty well from being there on a very regular basis, to coming into these unknown spaces. And I think you said it very well, Chad. Not knowing a lot about the place is important. Because if we come in with a high expectation that, say, the attic or the stairwell, with the Lady of Red is going to be a thing, then we start to have expectations that those spaces will, and it's kind of like, you're poking something there, intentionally. Sometimes it's just better not to have a whole lot of history, so that the other things that are, naturally happening and regularly occurring there can come forward as well.
Right.
And it's cool that they have a team that does the space regularly too. So they have some understanding, the spirits have some understanding that there is engagement and how it works. And, instead of going to a place the first time where it's never been investigated, we may have to educate spirits as much as, we want them just to automatically engage. It may not work that way. So we've seen that, we got to the brewery, it was the same thing. We got to the Haldeman Mansion, it was the same thing. Places we've been very regularly to, with over time, more activity started to happen because there was just familiarity with us and our equipment and how we operate. So it's cool that they're already there working at the place on a regular basis.
Yeah. And it's cool that it's both things. They do the day-to-day theater running and the investigation, because that way the spirits are used to them all the time. It's like they're used to them being in that space. It's not like these new people coming in just at night or whatever. It's like they're there all the time, because even at Boobies, we've noticed that a lot of the people who work there have experiences because they're just so used to them being there. So, David, you were going to say something?
No, I wanted to touch on that again with the familiarity, especially with the equipment. If you remember, Chad, when we went to Liverpool, when we keep speaking of the Liverpool house and our investigation out there. I was there. You only got to go the one time. I was there 3 times. I was there with the walk around, and then I went once prior with equipment to kind of familiarize, because that's typically an issue that we run into. Like Jamie said, when you go to a place and you can feel that something was there. One that strikes me when we said it was the tannery out in
New Holland.
Out in New Holland. The first time that we went out there to investigate with, when Justin and Courtney and Jerry and Missy and whoever else went out there, one of the big takeaways that they had brought back was that we could feel like that something was there. Something was definitely there. And you and I have been there, and we can attest that there's something definitely there. But it didn't know how to communicate. It was unfamiliar because it had never been investigated before. and was unfamiliar with the communication tools. So like I wanted to kind of bridge that with the Liverpool house. So like I made the trip out there. And when you go to a place like when we went to St. Albans, or we go here to the Clifton, you're going to a place that's routinely, or up to the Conjuring house. You're at a place that's routinely investigated. So much like at Boobies, where they have their pieces of equipment they're comfortable with, we can go in with the heads up from the team that's there. Okay, so they like using Spirit Box, and they like using a flashlight, and they like using the REM pod. But so we can have those on hand and set up. But we can also have like some of the other higher end other equipment, set up to see if they could communicate through that as well.
Jamie, what are you looking forward to using? What tools do you want to look at?
Well, I got a new REM pod, and if I ever can get it back from Dave, I'd love to get it out and get it on the ground.
I feel judged.
It's just hanging out with your trunk sub. The back of the car. The tripwire, I think we've had some really great success with that. I'm glad you have it. That was my first real good experience with it was at the Conjuring house, and I alluded to that in our first episode. We'll get to that, the video of that activity with it, but it is a really neat tool because of the uniqueness of the individual. Hey, that looks familiar. The individual REM pods that are strung together, and how they can interact independently versus, the stationary kind of puck that a REM pod is. Right. And because of the string that it comes on, then you can stretch it out, or as we did it at Conjuring, we put it in a circle, and it was, triggering in different directions that way. So it's some really cool stuff there. But the old school stuff is still some of the best, and we are still the best tool we have. As our senses are attuned to, these kind of experiences, just being in the space is really kind of just what I'm looking forward to. Just sitting down for a while and just experiencing the building and all it has.
Yeah. I mean,
what about you?
Well, like you alluded to earlier, that it's that old theater feeling. It just has that energy. You walk into it and it just has that energy. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the tripwire, but I'm also I've been wanting to experiment with the dowsing rods a little bit more, so I'm hoping to try that and see if I can get anywhere with the dowsing rods. So we'll see what happens.
Cool.
Dave, is there anything you want us to try while we're there?
I do have a question.
Okay.
No, Chad, I do have a clarifying question though for you specifically.
Okay.
When you mentioned water and its effect on the paranormal, I don't know. Like I'm ignorant on that fact. Can you explain that a little bit better for me?
There are theories that running water will have an effect, a positive effect on the paranormal, inducing or invoking or creating more paranormal activity in an area. So the fact that this creek or run was buried under the street that this is on, and having that water flowing under the street could help raise the paranormal activities there. It's the same sort of thing as limestone. It's all those minerals that they say helps not create but enhance paranormal activity.
Yep.
So
yeah, a lot of places have natural springs, and especially the older properties had wells, right? They lacked plumbing at the time. So there's a lot of them were built at a place where they were because there were natural springs nearby that they could be tapped into, hence the water aspect. In a place like, and we haven't really talked about this here yet because it's a bit out on our radar, but coming up at the end of the summer in September, we're going to be at the Red Mill in New Jersey, which is an active mill right on the water. That spinning wheel that's creating the energy to run the mill itself is driven off water power. So, another element there of what could be causing some of the heightened activity that a place has, the property has. So, but it's obviously it's a theory, but there is some preponderance to it because, there's consistency in it. Like if there's activity around water, and again, coincidental perhaps because we build things near water because we need it for sustainability.
Right.
but it is something to be considered.
Or, the other side of that is it is moving water, that takes energy. We know that spirits need energy to manifest. So maybe that movement and you've got what is it, kinetic energy that with that moving. So maybe it is a way that they can draw energy from that movement. Again, like you said, theory, we don't know. So, but that's what most of this is at this point, is theory. So
Yeah, we go from a podcast to a TED Talk real quick if we had a fact on that.
exactly. So
I'm glad you asked though, Dave, because that's one of those things, like, and I'm going to go tangent here just for a quick second, but that's kind of why we're doing this, right? To kind of explore some other things that we're curious about and we want to know more about. So the water factoid, is an interesting thing, and especially how it relates to the paranormal field. So that I see that could be an episode, somewhere along the way, just at least a discussion. With some other subject matter experts other than us, those who are more attuned in the field, to bring that forward to have it be a deeper dive for us at some point later on.
Yeah.
Well, I'm embracing my role. I'm going to have the chance this time to be the audience surrogate, for the Clifton, because I'm not going to be there. I don't have any research done or anything on it, and so I'm going to be the guy asking the questions because I'm not going to have the opportunity to be there with you all.
Can I dare say you'll be there in spirit?
No.
All right, then I won't.
I missed the applause button, Jamie. Sorry.
Yeah, I know. It deserved a boo button or at least a groan. It's all good.
So, do you have any other
Crickets?
Thoughts on the Clifton?
It can't come fast enough.
Yeah,
I don't.
Okay. So, it's about what, a 2.5 hour drive for us, Jamie?
Yeah, a little over 2. It depends which way you go. It's in the mountains, so there's no easy way kind of thing. And it's one of those things where the town looks like it shuts down at 10 o'clock. So when we start, I think at 11. So we'll have to figure out some logistics there. We won't have our assistant to the traveling secretary with us to help us with our plotting of where to go and what to do. But we'll figure it out. And it's nice to. I think we're done around 4 or 5.
I have faith in you guys.
We'll find our way. Okay.
We won't lose Jerry. We won't lose Jerry.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get him a square or something.
Air tag him like a shark.
Right. Get a little ear things that they put on cattle. Like how we can track him. It's easy. It's easy and easy out though. 2 hours is. It's a 2-hour drive, but for us, we've driven further. Much further than that. So, some of us drove straight home from northwestern Rhode Island after an investigation. So, Dave.
Lunacy.
The crazy things we do for our field, huh?
I'll tell you, I slept a bit and then drove, and
it's because they didn't have a rundown.
They
didn't have a rundown Econo Lodge for me to stay in.
Upscale Rhode Island was too good.
Oh, okay. Well,
listen, it takes me back to the days of being a private investigator.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this is the story I have to hear.
Oh no! I was right out of college. I was a private investigator. I was working for a place out of Birmingham, Alabama, staying in roach motels, making $100 a day, and like that hotel just took me back to those days of, sleeping in a sleeping bag on top of a bed because they didn't want to touch the rest of it.
Yeah. So
I traveled the country for several years at a career like that, not investigating, but remodeling retail stores. And, yeah, there were some places that we got landed at that were in exactly that spirit. I almost went through a floor in a hallway of a hotel, actually not too far from here, up in the Reading, or I'm sorry, in the Allentown area. And a couple nights we had gunfire in the hotels, and there's some fun. So traveling is great, but plan ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Read the reviews. There's a reason they're there.
So, okay, well, why don't we go ahead and wrap up the Clifton part of this? Jamie, do you want to talk about some of the other stuff we've got going on coming up?
Yeah, we do. Obviously, we've been talking about it all night, but the Clifton on the 15th. So we will be up there all night. So it is a scheduled full investigation, like 11 to 4, 11 to 5, something like that. So we're gonna hit the whole place with everybody minus Dave. So I think 8 or 9 of us are going to be there. So we'll have a couple teams running across the building, and hopefully have a lot of good evidence to bring back on our upcoming episode. On April 22nd, back to the brewery at Boobies again in Mount Joy. So that is open to the public. There is a link below on how to get tickets. You can also go to the Boobies website, boobiesbrewery.com, and then there's a link on their page to get tickets as well. And then coming up after that, on the 29th, Burlington Jail Museum in New Jersey. Unfortunately, I'm not going to make this one. I know Chad is not. I don't think any of us actually are. But the team's been scheduled to go along with our JOTT-Nyx New Jersey.
I don't think none of us are. We're good.
Yeah, I think we're all elsewhere. That one has been on the books for a while as well, and one I was looking forward to. Unfortunately, I've had a conflict. But this is a really cool older place that is now a museum, but was a very active jail and penal system kind of place. I think there's a courthouse attached to it. It's a really big place. So it's neat, and I'm sure we'll get back there again coming up, sometime maybe in the fall or even next year. Back into May, then we're at the brewery again. Then we have a joint investigation with Dover Paranormal. That is a private event, I believe, but one we're going to get to go and work in the brewery, and not as host to an event, but actually dig in and investigate with another team. Those events are always fun as well because you get to learn from others, who are like-minded with us, in mind and spirit perhaps, but have their own tactics and preferences and perhaps different equipment than what we carry. So it's always good to get to work with other teams because it accelerates the learning curve and the experience curve for us. And hopefully they can have some engagement that we might not be able to get at the site. So, but again, tickets for the public events the link is there. Please come out and join us at Boobies Brewery. It is a fun night, and we will give you all the tools and tactics you need. To become a paranormal investigator of your own. Mm-hmm. Okay. Of course, there's always ways to talk with us.
Speaking of our investigations, are we going to?
Good, Dave.
Speaking of our investigations, are we going to touch on our last one in this one, or are we going to do that later on?
Let's do that later on. I don't think we've had enough time from the weekend to kind of go through evidence yet. I haven't had time to sit down with anything yet to go through recordings and such. So let's plan that a little further out. So speaking of a little further out with us, the upcoming topics, obviously the Clifton with the background, the history and stuff, that's now. But next week, we were going to be coming to you, and I will be the subject matter expert, or at least try to be. One of the things that's always interested me in the paranormal field is what are orbs. I think we've all seen, some images, certainly a lot of photos, still photography of some glowy object, or many in some cases. Some are moving on videos, so, what is this? And I'm going to try to attack it from a objective perspective, that there is some science behind what could be happening, and there certainly is some paranormal that could be happening. So I'm going to try to walk the line there and give you some information that you may not know, and then some evidence of some opportunities that we've captured and other things along the way. So we can have a discussion about that. And obviously I want to hear what you guys think too, to have a conversation after the reveal that I'll provide you guys. So, and then finally, we're coming back to the Clifton, of course, to wrap up the investigation that we're doing on the 15th. And hopefully we can sit down with the team there at Clifton Paranormal, Ariel and Colin, to kind of sit down with them and like we alluded to earlier on, just kind of have a conversation with them of what's going on with them and give them what we found. Hopefully find something. And obviously, we don't always. So that's hopefully a fair expectation that it might not be a whole lot, but at least we can sit down with other investigators and get a feel for how they're working there and what their experiences are too. So some fun stuff coming up. And then after that, we have yet to decide topics, which we have to sit down and do, of course, because each one of us is going to be bringing a topic to each episode. So we just haven't gone further than that yet, but we will. And some cool stuff.
I was going to put David on the spot and see if he has his next topic yet.
Yeah, you will be up after Clifton Theater, so the review. So no pressure. What are you going to do? What do you want to do?
I will, because it's I want to. Well, I don't know. I don't have anything specifically picked out, but I think I want to do a. I want to choose a place. Preferably somewhere that I've been that the rest of you all haven't. Maybe like Lake Shawnee, or even something a little bit more grand, like the Winchester House, or maybe the Shanley Hotel in up in New York.
Yep. Cool.
No, definitely looking forward to those.
Yeah. All right. And obviously want to remind everyone we have an episodic program coming up called Ghostly Truth. And it will be a limited series with JOTT-Nyx Paranormal. And the first episode is going to be based on a local establishment here in Lancaster County, PA, where we're from, called the Bainbridge Inn. It got ages of history to it. It's a very old property that has been a working bar, restaurant, all kinds. It was a tavern, obviously, back in the day, right along the train tracks that are the major route northbound from the inlet of the Chesapeake Bay all the way up through the northern part of Pennsylvania, right along the Susquehanna River. So it's got a ton of history. Some of the principal stuff is done with it already. Now the editing is ongoing and getting all the stuff queued up just right. But it should not be long until this is available, and we'll talk about it here more to promote it. The JOTT-Nyx Paranormal page or our Facebook page and so forth. We'll present it there as well. And obviously all the other social media outlets that we have. So Facebook.com/Jerry and Melissa, which are founders, Jerry and Melissa Keller. TikTok, there's been some cool stuff there. We keep talking about Booby's Brewery, but they have a new social media manager who's been putting out some cool content, playing on their paranormal experiences there. Our own David Deromedi is one of the participants in one of those, and Courtney from our team is stand-in as one of the ghosts. So check them out and check us out there. Of course, Instagram and YouTube resources there too. So give us a follow, give us a like, leave your comments for us. We will touch base on them, I promise. And then, we'll hopefully see you down the way at another episode and maybe out of an investigation. There's certainly a lot of opportunity to engage with JOTT-Nyx along the way. We look forward to seeing you. So any final thoughts, guys?
No, like you said, Clifton can't come soon enough. I'm really looking forward to it. So
yeah, just check another day off the calendar, right? Let's keep it moving.
Yeah, you got it.
So
what day is the Clifton again? The 15th, right?
Yep.
15th. Yep. Week from Saturday.
15th. When's our? So awesome. That's well, I'm excited for you guys. I'm also excited to go and do what I'm going to be doing. So it was a trade-off, but I'm looking forward to hearing all about it when everybody gets back.
Yep. You'll know. Don't worry. We'll share. All right. Well, I guess this is where we're going to sign off. So thanks everybody for watching, and we hope to see you down the way. So until next time.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.